We muted it, we're good. Welcome everybody to the live session. I'm here today with Tyler Yonomori. We're gonna give everybody a couple minutes to jump on the call. Before we get started, one of the things I wanted to say is if you notice, I'm wearing a nice, cool, new American Judo gi and a new American Judo rash guard. So we're official now, baby. American Judo, created by Travis Stevens. So Travis put together this nice kit for me, the nice rash guard. I'm super excited to wear it. It's the first time I'm training in it or teaching in it. So I want to say thanks to Travis for putting together an awesome kit. We are going to ask, today I'm going to spend the time going over some questions that some of you have had. You've sent in some questions to us online. So we're going to start off by going over those questions and answers to those questions. The rest of you, if you have some questions that you want to post on the thing, feel free to do so, and I'll try to get to them as we cover the other stuff. Okay, so welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us today. All right, Tyler, showtime. Okay, so one of the first questions that we got was related to gripping, okay? And the question is right on right stance. Okay, the normal sequence we go through here is to come out and post the left hand on the shoulder. My opponent normally is supposed to do the same thing. Okay, and this is a situation we're supposed to end up in. Okay, but the question that was posed was, and we're going to switch to the other side here. So the question that was posed was, what happens when your opponent actually switches stances and hides his lapel, but comes out and posts hard with his? So you're in this situation. And if you can see, I can't reach his lapel. I can't post my hand like I'm supposed to, okay, because he's switched stances. He's standing as a lefty, but he's really a righty, okay? So this is the question, or this is the challenge that we're faced with, okay? So first and foremost, it is very, very important that you know what side your opponent is all the time. Unless they've never, ever competed in judo ever before and you've never seen any film, or they didn't have a match before you had to compete against them in a tournament, you should know what side that opponent is. That's without question. Knowing that Tyler's a righty going into this equation, if he comes out and he stands left side, even though he's a righty, my objective doesn't change. I still need to control this side of the body, okay? And the main rule of thumb that we always say in our gripping sequence is that we always grab first. Okay, so we always initiate gripping, and which then dictates movement. So if I come out and Tyler tries to reach, even though he's standing lefty, if he's a righty, he tries to post that hand, I'm not just going to let that hand touch my gi. And if any of you have seen the fight with Travis and Ole Bischoff in the semis of 2012, the whole fight was blocking the collar and punching their hands in and turn into this fight where they were actually trying to punch their hand in against each other. So rule number one is we don't let them grab our gi before we take hold of theirs. So that's step one. So when he comes out to reach, I'm blocking that hand and catching it and throwing it away. I'm not letting him put that hand on. I'm also, as a righty, I'm going to be circling to my left. Because if I just stand here like this, I can't reach Tyler's gi. There's no way I can reach that gi. So I have to understand the game of distance, and I have to understand angles. So even though he's standing as a lefty, if I come this way, okay, I'm circling towards that collar. I'm trying to punch that hand in. Most likely he's going to block, right? If he's good at gripping, he's going to block that hand just like I'm going to block his hand, okay? That's when we really have to use our cross grip sequence. We have to understand how they're defending, and then we have to have an answer. So our answer when they stand left side is yes, we block, because we don't want to let that happen. But if I can't get that hand on, then my next step is to take this hand and reach across and control this shoulder with a cross grip. That's how we're going to solve this dilemma, okay? So if I let him grab here, I am really screwed. You're correct, because I don't have a grip on the gi that I can throw from. He's then going to drag me around and probably power grip with that hand, and I'm going to be bent over and I'm going to be defensive. And that's obviously not what I want. Okay, so I don't give the grip ever. And when I'm doing this, I am circling and I'm trying to punch my hand in. If he doesn't let me, then I come cross grip. And now I can attack off the grip or make the cross grip, move them, then collect the sleeve, and then put my other hand on the gi. So number one, we always grab first. If I can't get his gi, I don't let him grab mine. No way. That's why a lot of times when you're watching the Grand Slam tournaments, World Championships, and now coming up the Olympic Games, there's a lot of fighting where they are not letting hands touch the gi. And these guys are blocking or they're pulling things by and they're fighting for grips because positioning is that important. All right, so we're not going to let them grab number one. Number two, we're circling to our left. If we're right-sided, we're going to circle to our left and try to punch our hand in or collect this sleeve. Whatever he gives you, you take. As a righty, I want to have left hand on the sleeve. If I can't get the left hand on the sleeve, I want left hand on the lapel. If I can't get either, then my right hand on the lapel is the next step. Okay, so he's going to reach, I'm going to block. I'm going to circle this direction. If I can catch his sleeve, I take that. If he takes his sleeve away, I look for the lapel. If he's fighting that off and he doesn't get it, then I'm cross gripping here and I'm starting to get some movement and then I'm looking to make my attack. But we never ever want to stand right here and give this collar up. Okay? Now, the other thing, if you're thinking about advanced level judo, the other thing people do in this situation is if I'm a righty and he stands left-sided, even though he's a righty, the other thing I can do, which is something Marty Malloy used to do and a lot of Europeans do, is I also switch my stance. So I'm a righty, I come out and stand lefty. That makes it harder for him. He can't reach my collar now. And now it's a game where we're circling and now we're both trying to punch the hand in. And whoever's more effective at getting the first hand on will then win the grip fight. And a lot of times that's what Marty Malloy did. She'd come out and she'd stand like this. And the game is just basically this. We're trying to, and always when you're a righty, you should always be circling to your left. I'm going away from the distance, away from his throws. If I can get that on, then I can shoot my attacks. If I can't get that on, again, look for the cross grip because that is the next sequence that you should be looking for. The goal is to control this side of the body, control this shoulder. I either control the shoulder here, I control the shoulder here, or I take the sleeve and I control this side of the body so I can get my second hand on. Okay, so that is the answer to that question. So yes, the other thing I can do as a sequence, but I have to do it immediately. Okay, the question is, can I cross grip the sleeve as he reaches? And the answer is absolutely yes, but I should be looking to attack right away off the grip because when he goes to reach this and I go to cross grip, remember, he's a righty. As I pull this hand by, that other hand is coming hard. And we're going to end up in this situation. And I never want anybody in judo having my neck. That's too much control to give somebody. But if you want to come out, pull this sleeve by and make an attack, either do oshigari, pull this sleeve by and come high, and then hit koichi or sumi. Pull this sleeve by and get a nice high grip so that when he goes to throw his, you're looking for a kosoto. That's a good way to get him off balance, yes. But you've got to drag the sleeve by and you've got to get your leg inside. So even if he comes high, you've got better position than he does, and you're looking to make an attack. So that would also be a good answer, a good response to that as well. Yes. Okay. Any other questions quickly on this scenario that came through? Okay, great. So the next question we had, we've been teaching a lot of split hips. So if you look at the my Sode DVD, if you saw Travis's Ippon Seiyonagi, and even my Marote Seiyonagi, we've introduced the split hip entry as a way to enter, especially at the higher level. So the question was, can you do a split hip uchimata? Is that something that is effective? So those of you that aren't aware of what we're talking about here, split hip, instead of standing, coming in and pivoting off the front foot and turning on our judo this way, the split hip entry is one where you shoot one leg through the middle, you jacket them up with your hands, you step back, you pick them up to throw. So that's our split hip entry for Seiyonagi, for example. Okay. The question is, would that work for uchimata? And the answer is sort of. It's not a true split hip. Okay, so I wouldn't necessarily do this motion and then step back with that leg deep and then be able to pick him up. But you can do, and I used to do this in competition as well, is you step inside. Okay, and the reason I would step inside left versus right here to do my Uchimata is so that I don't get skashi. Okay, because one of the main counters to Uchimata, and actually Tyler does this pretty well, is the skashi. So when I come in my Uchimata, if he sidesteps it, I'm a goner. Okay, so one of the ways to sort of avoid getting sidestepped is to actually make your first step inside, where I take that leg and I trap and I hold. So it's not truly a split hip, but it is grabbing the leg, a ken-ken Uchimata, they call it. I used to call it Ochi to Uchimata, but basically I'm taking my first step and I'm hooking his leg as I pull and extend the hands. My second step does go back. So similar to a split hip, where one leg is in, your second step is going to go in the middle, and then from here, I'm going to sweep and I'm going to look for my Uchimata attack. So yes, not a true split hip, because I'm not lifting him up with my hip. I'm actually using my leg to block and avoid getting skashied. At the same time, I then jump in, use my leg and my hip, and then I'm able to throw my Uchimata. So, a little bit quicker. Boom. Second step comes in, and then we're going to read. And that, I would use that when I can't do, I would use that when I'm in fear of fighting a really guy who takes, especially when they have inside control, because it's hard to pull their body to you with inside control, and it's easy for them to scash you. Okay, so if I'm going to attack from here, or even here, then the way to avoid getting skashied is just to stab that leg and get it inside, and then bring the Uchimata afterwards.
What's your favorite combination using a split hip?
Favorite combination using a split hip? Are we looking at after the split hip, or are we looking at before the split hip? So we've shown many, if you think about a lot of you guys have been following all of the different technical series that we've been teaching. Movement is very, very important in judo. It is almost impossible. It's not impossible because super powerful, strong guys do it all the time. But to be able to throw somebody standing still in randori competition is very, very difficult. So a lot of what we're teaching at the intermediate and advanced level is to create movement. Okay, and it also depends on what side your opponent is that you're fighting against, how you would set up any of those techniques. But a lot of times you see us try to drag our opponent or move with a sasai type motion, block the foot, and then we're into the split hip, because I've got to get the angle of entry, right? If Tyler's left side and I'm left side, it's very, very hard for me to shoot that gap, as you can see, right? Let's turn this way. If I'm here, it's really hard to shoot that gap. Can't get my hip in the right direction. So I've got to do one of two things. I've got to clear this leg, which a lot of times we do with a nice bang kochi to get the angle. So that's one combination we do. Here into split hip. Or I've got to drag them this way, which I might do from a sasai, and then I'm able to enter my split hip. Okay, so I've got to change the stance. I've got to bring this foot forward, enter, or I've got to bring that leg back so that I can enter. Okay, so that's one combination sequence, and that's from an Ippon Seoinage split hip. Even though that's a technique Travis shot, that's an example of how you would do a split hip for Ippon Seoinage. But it also depends on what side stance your opponent is and what you're looking to do. If Tyler turns to be right-sided now, okay, and I'm trying to do that same Ippon Seoi, this hip's in the way. I really can't get to my throw from here. So we've got to clear this leg out of the way. So a lot of things we've shown to clear that leg out of the way might be a simple ochi to push it back. And then before he's able to change, I hit my Ippon Seoi. It could be hit the leg and crowd him with Kosoto, move that leg back, hit my Ippon Seoinage. So it's really clearing this leg. And then Travis is someone who does a lot of bangs the foot out of the way and then blasts into stand-up Seoinage. So depends on what your opponent's doing stance-wise, But the most important thing here is that we're not attacking standing still, and we're not a one-shot pony. We've got some motion going, setting up our judo, right? And that's what's going to allow you to enter into any of our split hip techniques, whether it's Morote Sewi, Sode, or Ippon Seinagi.
When would you put your leg to the outside when you're splitting the hips?
So judo is one of those things where a lot of it is based on feel, and a lot of it is based on your opponent's reactions, right? So you can see a lot of times, let's say I came in my split hip on Tyler a couple of times. Even maybe I did Kochi and I set it up correctly, but when I went for my split hip, Tyler always avoided and got off the throw by circling out of the throw nicely, right? So when I go to do my Ippon Sewi, Tyler's someone who keeps falling off that side. He keeps circling out of position, okay? So if I know his way out is that way, right? Then instead of doing my regular split hip, the way to catch the throw is to take my leg and shoot it outside. So it's trapping his leg, and he can't get out of the throw by stepping around, right? Because this leg is what's going to block when I come in. That leg is going to block his leg. Unless he jumps up in the air, I'm going to be able to pick him up with an outside split hip. So it really depends on the opponent and what type of reaction they are giving you, and the reason why you couldn't throw them the first or second time you tried. Okay, so that's a good answer, or a good time I would do the outside split hip. The other thing is body types. A lot of times body types do play a role in what type of technique I do. So, for example, if I have a really, really tall opponent, maybe for me the split hip doesn't really help that much because he's that tall. I'm not able to get underneath him. So if I'm fighting a really tall guy, that might be a reason why I would come outside with my Ippon Sewi again. I mean my Morote Sewi, because I'm here and I can catch his legs, and then I can pick him up with the outside of my hip and the outside of my leg. All right, so that's when I would switch. It's based on body type, and it's also based on the reaction that your opponent is giving you to avoid the technique, the initial technique. Was there another one on that one? Okay, the other question that we got was related to Ippon Seinagi. Okay, so, or even I think it was Ippon and Morote, or was it just Ippon?
It was Ippon.
Okay, so specifically Ippon Seinagi. So the way we teach, don't forget, we're sort of taller European style judo players, I would say. American judo. Travis is a tall 81. I'm sort of an average height, 73. But when we do our Ippon Seinagis and stuff, we don't bend our legs very much. If you notice, like, we don't have low center of gravities. We're tall, thinner, broader shoulders, thinner waists. And I'm saying that with all due kindness, Travis. We're talking about Travis's competition days, right? Broad shoulders, thin waists, small hips, okay? Legs kind of skinny. All right, so when we do our Ippon Seinagis, then we're just dropping below the center of gravity when we do it, right? We're using our length and we're using our legs, especially Travis. He's using his legs, he's using his length to pick people up. He doesn't need to bend low. Mechanically, it doesn't make sense for him to drop low, because the question was, when we're teaching, we're going left, right, shoulders distance apart. Let's face the camera, right? We're teaching it this way here. Shoulders distance apart, belt below the belt, okay? Person comes forward, pick them up with your hips and throw them over the top. That's the way we're teaching the technique. And the question was, why don't we do it with, our feet closer together, sort of like feet close together and dropping way down here, okay? So it's really, like I said, it's body type. The Japanese, shorter stature, usually bigger, thicker legs, more explosive in that low position. My friend from Hawaii used to do judo with Sonata was a Japanese and did really low sode, really low seyanagi. It's the way he was taught. It was built for his body and built for his weight class. So that's why they do it very, very low stance. But you have to think about your body type and how you're built, because that is going to dictate how you should do the technique. And I'd recommend that if you're taller and thinner, we don't bend as much. We use our upper bodies. All we got to do is understand that in order to throw, I got to get his upper body moving forward. I got to make sure I get below that center of gravity, and it's easy for me to pick him up in the air without bending my legs that much. If you're a small guy in your division, relative to your division, and it behooves you to go super low, there's no reason why you can't do that. But we made the American Judo system specifically for Americans and Eastern Europeans and European countries, which our body types are typically broader shoulders, thinner waists, and our legs aren't as thick as some of the Asians. So that's the difference. Both ways are very effective, but this is replicable for some people with similar body types to us.
What are some of your favorite things and setups for Harage?
For Harage Gosh. Okay, so this is a technique. This is a technique that a lot of my students struggle with. First of all, with Harage Gosh, they always try to get their hip too far across when they're doing Harage, and they end up like sweeping air. Nothing's happening here with the reap. What I try to do in terms of the actual technique itself, I want my opponent coming towards me. I want his weight being pulled forward. I'm going to actually get out of the way by stepping in front of his foot. And when I reap, I actually want to sweep his legs to the ceiling. Okay, I'm reaping that leg, and I'm actually using that leg to catapult him over as I pull my hands and turn my head. That's one of the main things in terms of trying to do the technique properly, is not overshooting the hip. Okay, that's first and foremost with a proper Harage Gosh. Okay, now in terms of setting it up, again, understanding the concept here. Understanding the concept. It depends on my opponent. Is he lefty or is he righty? Right? Because my fakes against the lefty and my fakes against the righty are going to be two entirely different things. So if we just look at left on left setups for Harage, I want to make sure that this leg gets moved back, or I circle my opponent into a position where I can throw them with Harage. So one of the main things I would do to set up a Harage Gosh here, again, Kochigari. It's also one of the most effective drills in judo today, based on the current style of judo, is Kochi. So learning a good Kochigari to set up. Now my foot's already in position to do my Harage. All I have to do is back step, and then boom, I'm ready to throw. So Kochigari, the left, that's one setup I would do. Kochi to Harage. The other setup, similar. If you've got a good Harage, you also probably want to have a nice Sasai, right? It kind of goes with an Osoto, a Sasai. Again, that sets up my first foot, and then I can blast my Harage Gosh from there. So I want to have a good Sasai to set up a nice Harage Gosh. So two of my favorites left on left would be Kochi. And because if you're doing Harage, you're typically taller than your opponent, having a nice Sasai to set it up. And you also have to, when you're talking feints, you also kind of have to feel as you move, what is this guy doing? If I fake my Osoto, does he bite? Does he move? Or doesn't he? Some people, when you go to do Osoto, they'll move that leg back, which then will set up a Harage Gosh. Other people might keep that foot there and let you come in because they're looking to counter your Osoto. If that's the type of person, then you know this fake is not going to really work with them. So again, it's that reaction, it's that movement, that feel to see how your opponent reacts to whatever it is you're doing is going to allow you to do your big throw effectively. Right? So that would be one. Against right-sided judo players, when we do Harage Gosh, right side, or we fighting opposite side like this, the concept I want you to understand, guys, is we never want to attack with an inferior grip. And to me, right now, this is an inferior grip. I would not recommend, or I don't recommend, any students attack. Unless you've got 2 penalties on you, this guy just attacked 2 times, and you've got desperation. You've got to get an attack off, or you're getting a Hansukamake, you're getting your 3rd Cheeto. Then you can attack in this grip, just to get an attack. But in reality, when we're fighting opposite side of people here, 2 things. We either want inside control, we want that guy's head here, pressed to our chest, pressed to our shoulder, where there's no space. And that feint might be fake my switch so that I can come into my harai gauche, right? I got to clear this leg. If he stands at that hip forward and presses it forward, as I come in my harai, I can't reach. So I want to clear this leg, and the feint there would be fake the switch. If he doesn't bite for the switch, do the switch and score with it. But notice, I come inside, I got a grip where he's very, very fearful. He's very afraid right now because I've got a lot of control of his body. So he's going to be biting on everything I do. All right, so from here, inside control, fake the switch, look for your harai gauche. The other thing is, if you do settle for an outside grip, I want you to break this arm down. Travis and I have shown a lot of DVDs, a lot of technical videos here, where we put pressure on this arm, we climb up, in some cases we even let go, and we reset this hand. Then we roll to the sleeve. But notice, I don't want to give Tyler any room to operate. All right, now from here, depending on what his thing is, I might do a quick ochi, harai. I might fake the switch again, or step outside, get him to react, and then look for my harai gauche off of my ashigarai. Okay, but the main thing is positioning. If I'm outside, I want to break that down and have control of this. I got to have my control of my opponent's body to this degree if I'm going to shoot a big throw. Or I've got to be here. All right, our judo is not meant to play judo like traditional big-time Japanese players here and try to blast people from an inferior position. That's not our system. That's not the way we teach. So you've got to improve your sequences, improve your positioning if you're going to shoot the big techniques.
What's some of the differences from the sleeve versus the collar?
Okay, so the Ippon-sei Agi from the sleeve. In a competitive standpoint, I never teach my students to do Ippon-sei Agi from the sleeve. I don't have enough control of my opponent when I just have his sleeve. At the beginner level, at the intermediate level, as we're learning judo, maybe from a self-defense standpoint, no-gi judo, I can teach Ippon-sei Agi from above the elbow joint. And I can teach all the basics of the throw from there, no problem. Okay? But realistically, in a competitive situation, these guys, if they're even at a decent level, a national level player, when I start to shoot that, I'm not going to be able to get my arm into that position and have enough control to execute a good Ippon-sei Agi. I'm just being honest. It's not something that we teach. We teach it to beginners. We teach it for basic self-defense. But when we're hitting a competition setting, all of this Ippon-sei Agis we're doing, typically if I'm over the top of the arm, when I'm over the top of the arm, his arm gets trapped inside. I've got full control of that shoulder now. So typically when we teach this, we're over the top with the grip. When we come in, we've got full control of that shoulder. And now I can either do my split hip or I can do my regular Sei-Agi. But I've got this arm trapped. It's trapped here, and I've got way more control of my opponent when I do it from the lapel. Okay, we don't ever really teach it from here. All right, so, and it's really about the ability to pull the trigger on the attack as efficiently and as quickly as possible, where we actually can get our hands into control, and then we're able to throw. I just don't feel like from this position there's too much space. If he's a righty, there's way too much space for me to get there. It's hard for me to get all the way to that position. And if he's a lefty, I've got good control of the sleeve, but that hand's down. So it's too hard for me to, unless I'm going to do something like this, which is a little bit old school, where you can hold the sleeve for a long time and pull them behind you. I just don't feel like I can get to the right position as fast enough. And it doesn't give me as much control as I need to do a good, effective throw.
What are your favorite setups for IGF legal power form?
Okay, so Kataguruma today, very different than it used to be, right? In my day, I loved Kataguruma because I was able to grab that guy's leg. I was able to stand back up. I was able to jump into a somersault. It was very, very fun. But today's judo is very different. So one of the best setups I feel here is coming here and shooting this leg in front. And I can do that from a lapel grip. I can do it from an outside grip. Basically, I'm just stepping in front and pushing him around. From here, I'm going to hit my Kataguruma. And again, whether I hit it with one hand or whether I hit it with two hands, doesn't really matter. But one thing you have to understand is we want to do Kataguruma. I don't want to just hold the guy's arm outside, because if he can let go with that hand and swim, then we end up like this. You see how I don't have control of Tyler's? If I just hold and I don't come up high over the top, then what happens is when I go for my Kataguruma, he lets go. I can't attack. Right? I don't have enough control here. So one of the things we do, we either grab on top and we hold over, right, over this way, or we take the second hand and we put it on. Now, to set it up, I might just stab. Here. So get used to just stepping ochi and pushing and then coming back. Okay, and I can do that with two hands on, or I can do it with just one hand here. And I grab the sleeve as I come through. So that's one of the main setups right now and also depends on, again, we're looking at sides of judo players we're talking about, right? So that's against lefty versus righty. That would be one of my main setups here. As I'm playing that, I just got to create some space so I have some position to put my head in. That allows me to go. And again, I'm going outside this foot, outside his foot. I'm sitting to the side. The one thing I want to make sure you guys understand, when we do the Kataguruma here, as I pull down, I'm going to roll. I'm going to roll with my back to his. That's what's going to help me catapult him over or fly him over as he's starting to resist. And the key for IJF now is making sure your hand doesn't touch these legs in any way, shape, or form. You can do a Kataguruma holding low on the lapel as long as it's outside here. I can do a Kataguruma from here, right? And use that. I can even use my arm as long as my hand is holding a grip on the gi. I can do that technique. The other thing I do for Kataguruma is I like to come over the top this way. Because we talked about having full control of his arm, right? So if you notice right here, now I'm over the top of Tyler's arm. When I deck my head, see what happens to his arm? His arm is stuck. When I go to hit this and I make him step back, right? As I make him step back, when I go to hit this, I've got his arm stuck in my arm this way. So in this position, I'm going to grab low on that lapel. I want to be over the top with my left hand. I'm going to come inside and go high. High. Push. That one hand is enough. This arm over the top. This motion right here. You can hold the sleeve on this side. Hold the sleeve. I can hold the lapel on this side. Whatever I want to do. But this over-the-top grip gives me all the power in the world in terms of like being able to trap his whole body and go for broke. Okay? There's a couple of setups for you for Katagruma, righty versus lefty. Harai Goshi is blocked. Okay. So what we try to teach, okay, we do a lot of drills at the school. And when I say drills, we do a lot of techniques where we say, students, I want you to put your combinations together. I want you to think about, you know, when you switch partners, sometimes I end up with lefties, sometimes I end up with righties. When I get that partner and I know he's right-sided, for example, I'm gonna have a nice inside grip, and I say, okay, guys, I want you to do a combination technique. I want you to put an Ashiwaza technique first, and then your big throw. Okay, so in this instance, maybe I would do, you know, maybe I'd do a step on the foot sweep, boom, blast in my Harai Gosh. Step on the foot sweep, blast in. And every time we're doing the drill, we want to do like a lifting motion. We want to actually like get into position where we're ready to lift our opponent up. And we do like a minute of these drills. Okay, and this one is a small technique into a big technique. So like I said, it might be boom, jump in. Next one, boom, jump in. Okay, we do a minute. And Tyler's going to do a minute, same thing. And he takes two techniques he wants, lefty versus righty. He does the drill. Then we then do a couple sets of those. And then I say to my students, okay, now I want you to do your big technique first. And I want you to follow it up with a combination, come out backwards. So in this instance, we might be doing Harai Goshi. Okay, again, I've got full control inside here. I'm going to blast in my Harai Gosh. My Harai Gosh didn't work. He blocked it. I'm going to hook that leg. I'm going to keep pressuring hard. And then I'm going to reap. And I'm going to look for Osotogari. Okay, so one combination is Harai doesn't work. Don't quit on the Harai, right? Stay there, but keep pressure down, hop to the circle, win the battle with the hands, and then finish Osoto. That's in the instance where they block your Harai, but they stayed on their feet. Let's change the angle here. So I'm going to come in my Harai Goshi. He blocked. To finish Osoto, I got to win the hand battle, pulling down, pivoting, keeping pressure, hop, 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 bury the head, finish. Okay, so we'll actually do Uchikomis that way too. I want my students to get in the habit of, if forward doesn't work, come out backwards. Maybe if I do my Harai, but he steps around it. Again, same thing. Don't stop. Just because one technique doesn't work, judo hasn't stopped. You've got to figure out where your opponent is after you make the attack. Where is he? He's there. Maybe I do want to hook Osoto and finish. Maybe he's leaning backwards. He didn't just jump around. He stopped, but his hips are up. Well, maybe I want to be coming out Kochigari. I've got to take whatever he gives me, right? Whatever he gives me, I've got to take. I can't go in with a preconceived notion that if Harai doesn't work, I'm doing Osoto. It is something you can drill. It's something you can say, okay, Harai Goshi, come on out, hop, 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 Osoto. Harai Goshi, hop, 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 Osoto. But if I do my Harai Goshi, and Tyler like squats backwards and leans hard real back. My leg didn't even make it to the outside. I can't do it. So I'm going to come out. Ojigara. And that's maybe something else I'm going to drill. So you've got different scenarios depending on how he defends. In the first instance, Tyler stayed still. I came in my Harai. My leg was hooked outside. I'm going to finish Osotogari. Clear, no problem. In the next instance, I'm going to do my Harai. Tyler's going to step around it. What do I want to do? Figure whatever your best technique is. If you like doing Osoto, stab Osoto and drill the Osoto. If Osoto's not your technique, look for Ochi. If you don't do Ochi, look for coaching. But make it part of your daily routine. Every time someone steps around, this is the backward throw that I do that goes with my Araigosh. Does that make sense? That way, we're always drilling to get better. And it depends on my partner's reaction all the time. I got to do what he gives me. Eventually, yes. So the answer is, I come in, Harai, I'm here. I'm going to hook this leg. I'm going to drive down. Sometimes my toe is going to hit the ground, yes, because I've got a lot of pressure here. I'm going to hop, hop, hop. When I get the angle, it's not about where my position is with this leg that's important. It's where I get to into position where I can actually throw with the Osoto. So I'm driving. Sometimes this leg might stay up. It might stay high. It doesn't matter. It depends on how he's resisting. I don't always have to have that toe on the ground. But what I do have to do is I have to have it hooked and I have to have pressure. And I've got to be winning the battle with these hands, right? That's very different than this motion. Keep your arms up on me. Okay, so when I do this throw, if I'm like this, you can see I'm not going in the right direction here, guys. When I've got this hook, if I'm not winning, I'm not doing Osoto. I'm taking that leg out because I don't feel comfortable. When I hook, I'm going to be winning. See where Tyler's weight is? I've won the battle with the hands. Now I'm in position to throw. You've got to make sure you're in the right position before you pull the trigger, right? Because the other one here, this is not good. I don't feel like I want to get the heck out of there and settle back. I'm not going to finish with Osoto. So you've got to have that feel. You've got to know when it's working, you go for it. When it doesn't feel like it's going to work, you got to know when to bail. Right? It's kind of like my students, when they go for the home run technique and they go all the way behind and it looks awesome and they go, I'm going for it, but then they go, oh, and they fall on the wrong back. Like, you've got to know things aren't going my way. Right? This guy, maybe I hooked and I start to throw, but he's turned. I go, no way I can go for it from here. I know I'm going to get smashed if I do. I just go like bail and get the heck out of there. Only when I've got it the way I want it, now I can go for it because I'm not going to sacrifice my back. You know, I'm not going to give up a win to anybody. So that's why judo, they say, is a feel, right? What Travis and I are trying to teach you is the best odds for you to win. This is the best gripping sequences you want to get to put yourself in a position to win against better people. Okay? These are the techniques, the way we do the techniques, and the sequences and the grips with which we do these techniques that give you the best fundamentals and give you the greatest chance of having success. It's not going to work against every person, okay? But these are the fundamentals to get you to the highest level. Now you've got to specify and be specific about how you're going to make adjustments based on your body type, based on your training partners, you know, based on reactions that you're getting to your throws. That's when you've got to develop that feel. When we get to that advanced level, judo becomes a feel and it becomes reaction. Well, I know maybe my best throw is Sode. Here's an example. My best throw is Sode. But if I fight somebody who keeps his elbow down the whole, I know I'm not going to throw Tyler Sode if he keeps that elbow down. I can't go out in the beginning of the fight and say, I'm going to throw him Sode. But this guy's smart, man. He's shutting down my game. I can't get that hand up. I've got to fake the Sode, and I've got to come up with something else. I've got to understand what's going on so I can adapt and overcome. Okay? Okay, guys. That was about 42 minutes straight of answering questions. It's a good sweat I got going today. I want to thank you guys. That's answered all the questions that have come across so far. So I want to thank you guys for joining us. I want you to thank you for being a part of the American Judo system. Travis and I have really grandiose plans and ideas for where we're going to take this site, where we're going to take this methodology. We continue to shoot 3 or 4 hours every week to add content, to come up with new techniques, to continue to improve ourselves and also all of our students, which is you. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you being part of the American Judo system. We really hope someday to make this thing super special, where anybody from around the world who really wants to learn judo can come and learn from us. And we really appreciate you guys being part of it. Thank you.